I want to recap the Wilmington Half Ironman and share some mental tips and tools that I used to prepare for the race and to get through the race. So let's back up 1 year to my first ever attempt at a 70.3 at this same venue in Wilmington. And I had a plan and I went and I tried the race, ended up with a DNF. They closed the course just 2 miles from the finish on me. So what I had to do was apply the growth principle of plan, do, check, and adjust. So the plan last year, I was training and I trained really hard and had a coach on the swim portion because that was my weakest and I needed to do it to get it done. However, in the process, I didn't put enough effort into the bike and the run. And as a result, when I showed up and was faced with really strong winds last year, unseasonably strong, then the bike fell apart on me because I wasn't prepared to handle going against the wind. My pace was off, my legs were burned out, and so forth. So I knew I needed to adjust my training because, as we know, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we drop to the level of our training. The next thing was fueling. I had enough fuel with me, I was planning it, however, I didn't follow the plan. That's key to anything, to have the plan, but you have to follow the plan. I didn't feel like eating most of the time or eating what I had with me, therefore, I didn't take in enough carbs. And for example, I probably was averaging 20 or 30 grams per hour, which is severely under fueling. Uh, those two areas needed to be corrected. So I did do that. I came up with a 12-week plan, very extensive training plan that focused equally on all three disciplines, the swimming, the biking, and the running. And I changed what I brought with me. I stuck exclusively to gels and waffles, as well as making sure I had carbs and electrolytes in all my water. So, in addition to changing what I brought with me, I followed the fueling plan and ate even if I didn't feel like it. So, those were the two big adjustments I made and followed the growth plan so that I could succeed this year. So we started the race. The conditions were different than last year. The wind was better, but there was still decently strong wind, which is pretty normal for North Carolina in October. So this venue, Wilmington, is always going to have some wind, I would imagine. However, it was less, fortunately, than last year. Temps were colder this year. The air temperature started out around 47, 48 degrees in the morning, and the water temperature was a 67 degrees. So, off to a kind of a difficult start, extremely cold, waiting around and getting in the water. Now, I was faced throughout the race in multiple times, I felt like quitting. And that often happens when you're doing an endurance sport and you come across certain challenges or feelings. You may be thinking about quitting. This happened to me several times. So I did need to be able to battle that. So I'm in the swim, uh, standard fare. It had taken a while to get warmed up and get going. I also had to resolve a couple of leaks in my goggles, but that's pretty standard for any triathlon. So I was faced with that and faced with another challenge coming out of the water. I was hit with the wind again. I was kind of tired. I was definitely queasy and dizzy, and I was shaking uncontrollably. So into T1 I went, got ready for the bike. I spent too much time in T1 because I stopped by the medical tent because I couldn't control my shaking, and they took some time to try to help warm me up. And I got on the bike and took off. So I was still cold, and it took a little while to get warmed up on the bike. Mostly it was pretty easy. The wind wasn't against me for the first 10 miles, but then miles 11 to 35, I frequently was going directly into the wind. Fortunately, it lightened up a little bit in the direction, so the 30 mile 36 through the finish was off and on not as horrible. And the run, I had a really good start, better than last year. This year, I was actually able to stay on my pace at the start of the run. However, my back was hurting, and then my knees started to really ache and hurt. And as that pain increased, my pace started to slow down. And towards the end, I had to adjust my pace again to make sure I was going to finish on time. And I did have a successful finish. But what happened? How did I go ahead and accomplish all of that? Well, the first thing is we discussed the growth cycle. I had to apply that to last year so that I could make the necessary adjustments to help me this year. Now, during the training, so I have the 12-week training plan, and it was very extensive, very grueling, and I did not always feel like doing the workout. You don't always feel like getting up at 5:30 in the morning and heading to the pool, knocking out a swim workout, and then having to get changed and get on the bike and so forth. So, what I discovered is that what Jocko Willink says in his podcast, if you've ever caught him, and in his book, he says that motivation doesn't work. The only thing that truly works is discipline. And I found that to be true because motivation comes and goes. You might be motivated to sign up for the race. You might be motivated on a few workouts here and there. But overall, it's going to come and it's going to go, and it's going to be gone most of the time. So you can't rely on motivation to get it done. You just have to set the plan and do it. So whether you feel like it or not has no bearing on whether you're going to get up and do your workout. That was important. Now, during the race, the thing to do to constantly check what's going on is kind of a mini growth cycle. It's a real-time, fast-moving mental exercise called the OODA loop. And the OODA loop stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. So you're going to observe what's going on at that moment, especially if there's anything that's not going well. What is going on? You're going to orient yourself to your options and what might you be able to do? What course of action can you take? Then you're going to decide on what you want to do, and you're going to act on that. This I had to constantly go through, especially when I was faced with wanting to quit. So the most important thing is I relied on the 4 big skills of mental toughness. The first being breath control, right? During the whole race, always had to monitor my breath, make sure I was staying in control. If I ever get too anxious or excited about anything, just go into a better breathing cycle, get things going so that you can calm down your physiology and you can stay in the right pace that you want. Positivity is the next big skill, and this is where the OODA loop helped me identify when that was not happening, when I was feeling like quitting, when I didn't want to move on, when the pain was getting great, and I started doing negative things like thinking about how much time I had left, right? How I have a whole mile left to swim and I'm feeling horrible right now. Or I have 56 miles on the bike. I just started it and I'm just already psyching myself out thinking about how long I have left to go. I had to identify that and immediately interdict those thoughts and replace them with a positive mantra. I've got this. I've trained for this, right? I'm strong. I'm healthy. I'm a triathlete. Whatever mantra you need or want to use to get rid of those, to push out the negative thoughts and to fill your head with the positive thoughts. Next is visualization. I applied visualization by picturing myself getting to the next T1. Getting to the next transition. So it started out, I'm like, okay, forget there's a mile left on the swim. I'm picturing myself getting to T1 and how that's going to feel to be out of the water. So you continue to do that, and I would visualize crossing the finish line. How is it going to look? How is it going to feel? And how am I going to do that? And I'm focusing on that. So that visualization helped. The next most important thing, which was one of the things I really used in my training, was micro goals. Often in my training, when I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, I didn't want to get ready and go. I just had to tell myself, just get dressed. It's easy to get dressed and get ready. Just do that. And once that was done, I would just convince myself, okay, you're ready, grab some of the water and go get in the car and start heading to the pool or head to the park to knock out that long bike ride that you don't want to do. So little goals like that. Once I got to the park, just get on the bike and get started. Then during the training, I would not focus on the whole training session. I would train on small pieces, which is what I had to do in the race. I would focus in the swim on the next buoy. Just focus on the next buoy and keep repeating your positive mantra and visualize the finish. On the bike, I would look at maybe just knocking out the next 5 miles. Great, I hit that and I'm like, okay, let me just do this next 5 miles. Those micro goals really help break things down and keep you from the negative thoughts of I have too much to go, I should quit now. So the next really biggest thing that you always need in any of these challenges is to know your why. You have to have a strong why and you have to know what it is. With that, you can overcome any of the pain and discomfort you're feeling at the moment. If your why isn't greater than that pain, you invariably will quit. One additional why I threw on while I was in the swim, when I realized how much I did not enjoy it, I told myself, if you want the option to not come back next year and do this again, you need to finish today. If you finish today, you have the option. But if you don't finish today, guaranteed, you need to come back again for a third year to finish what you started. So if you apply all of those skills together, you can get through your training plan and be properly prepared, and you can get yourself through the challenge. So go ahead and set yourself a large goal and apply those skills, and you'll see what kind of success you're going to get.